This has been a day for solemn remembrance, the 75th anniversary of D-Day. Allied troops assaulted Nazi-occupied France on June 6, 1944, in history's largest air and sea invasion. Today, President Trump and other leaders of the wartime allies visited the invasion beaches of Normandy to remember the fallen and honor the remaining survivors. We'll have a closer look after the news summary. A Russian mobile network company is teaming up with China's Huawei to develop 5G networks in Russia. The deal was signed today in Moscow as Chinese President Xi Jinping visited Russia's President Vladimir Putin. It came despite U.S. claims that Huawei is a security risk. Meanwhile, Beijing warned again that it will retaliate and said the U.S. bears the blame.
The United States exerts ultimate pressure, continuously escalates trade disputes, and spreads the crisis to other fields. The responsibility completely lies on the U.S. side. Whoever started the trouble should end it.
Meanwhile, the U.S. trade deficit with China grew by nearly 30% in April. That as the two nations are still trying to negotiate a way out of a growing trade war. The Pentagon has wrapped up its inquiry into a 2017 ambush that left 4 U.S. Army soldiers in Niger dead. It endorses earlier findings that mostly junior officers were to blame. The soldiers were hunting an Islamic State leader near the village of Tongo Tongo when more than 100 extremists attacked. In Germany, a nurse was convicted today of killing 85 patients at 2 hospitals over a 5-year period. A court acquitted him in 15 other killings. Prosecutors said that Niels Hogel deliberately put patients into cardiac arrest and then tried to revive them. But the verdict drew criticism from relatives of the victims. Hogel is 42 and was sentenced to life in prison today. He's already serving another life sentence from a prior conviction. Back in this country, the New York City Police Commissioner apologized for the Stonewall raid in 1969 that galvanized the gay rights movement. In June 28th of that year, police raided a gay bar in Greenwich Village, and patrons fought back. The commissioner said today that the police actions were wrong. R&B singer R. Kelly pled not guilty today to 11 new sex-related felony charges. He was arraigned in Chicago on counts including aggravated criminal sexual assault. They carry much stiffer penalties than the original charges he faced. The number of measles cases in the U.S. this year has now topped 1,000. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said today that it is the most since 1992, when there were more than 2,200. Most of this year's involve children who have not been vaccinated. The Federal Communications Commission is moving again to crack down on robocalls. Commissioners voted today to let phone companies block unwanted calls. Spammers make an estimated 5 billion such calls every month, nearly double the total of just 2 years ago. Optimism that negotiators will make progress in the U.S.-Mexico tariff talks drove stocks higher on Wall Street today. The Dow Jones Industrial Average jumped 181 points to close above 25,720. The Nasdaq rose 40 points, and the S&P 500 added 17. And in Japan, the Minister of Health has dismissed calls to ban current requirements that women wear high heels at work. He said today that such attire is, quote, necessary and appropriate. More than 20,000 women in Japan have signed an online petition to ban mandates for high heels. The campaign is known as #Kutu. That's a play on the Japanese words for shoe and pain. Let them try that in the U.S. Still to come on the NewsHour, remembering the Allied invasion of Normandy 75 years ago today. What the Trump administration is demanding to stop the looming tariffs on Mexican imports. The many Democratic presidential candidates and their many plans to address climate change, plus much more.